right, welcome on into the Ryan Ripken Show. It's a brand new week. It's kind of a rainy week, at least in the forecast, but we're here to brighten up your day. I don't like how corny I am off the start, but happy Tuesday, everyone. We got a jam-packed week, and as always, for those that are tuning in live, let us know where you're tuning in from. But here's on the docket for today. The Birds are back in town. We're going to discuss a little bit about what it means, but also with them being back in town, we're at the quarter mark of the season in MLB. So we're going to take a moment here. We saw a couple news outlets give out some report cards. So we're going to break down what's been going on and rate kind of the Orioles. And spoiler, the grades probably aren't too high. On another note, it's never too early to start talking about trade speculation. I think it is. But John Morosi and MLB Network are saying there's one Oriole that teams could be targeting, specifically the Phillies, the Rangers. And also another hot name for the Orioles, Adley Rutschman's had some struggles, and people are wondering, is he going to turn it back on? I'm going to break that down later on in the show. The NBA draft happened last night. Sorry, the lottery for the draft. So it makes you wonder, some new forms of systematic changes have happened. Should the NFL move to that? MLB and NBA lottery systems, more to discuss. And then we'll wrap up the show with whatever we like to do. There's always chaos, and we're going to figure out who is going to be doing our fitness test when the Iron Rooster and Cooking with Kyle heads to the studio on Wednesday. So we got probably the fullest house we got in a long time. To my right, Kevin and Zach of Kevin and Zach Reacts. Hey, fellas.
How's it going, Kevin?
Oh, I did some research with the rain, and in 1909, the Phillies had 10 consecutive rainouts in a row, which we might be headed for here in Baltimore the way this weather looks this week. So
can't get those stats anywhere else.
Yeah, nowhere else.
Yeah,
except
the
Google
internet that we got it from nowhere.
Hey, you know what else you can't
just
get anywhere else? Kevin having in-ear monitors for the last year and have no idea still how to wear them.
yeah, it's my.
Are you
it's-
looking
it's
at
my
this right now?
It's my daily struggle here.
Are you looking at this? It is. Just turn to the left, Kevin. Turn your head to the left.
Across his
What is
body.
going on?
It
here?
is underneath his arm.
fashion
It is
statement.
underneath his arm.
It's a fashion statement. It's a fashion statement.
even I have been able to figure this out, Kevin.
It took a while.
And that, it did take a while. I will say it's not just a you thing. It did take a while.
You remember the first month of the show, and Brad had to show us how to physically put them in every
Yes.
single. I would be
I still need that now.
Oh, sugar. And yes, Kevin, you shaved. You definitely look like
You do look put together today. I'll say
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. I had to show up nice today.
Yeah, you
It
did show up looking nice. Is there a reason?
Still has the jacked up hair in the back, but you know, whatever.
It's
Literally looks
Those
like
are
a-
Under
Yeah.
Armour khakis.
They are athletic wear. Athletic wear.
Brad, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Doing well. We got an intern.
Yes, we do. Sam is going to be behind the sticks here later this week, whether he likes it
show
or
his
not.
face. There you go. Yeah, it's getting blocked off a little bit, man.
No, it's going to be a great week. I'm hoping he can learn some things with us and maybe some things not to do, maybe a few things to do.
Yeah,
now
we're-
knows now how
we're
not to
not gonna-
put.
That's right.
Yeah,
We're
How not to
we've
put
already learned
headphones
one thing
on.
is how not to put in the earbuds. It's the crossbody look, you know.
Yeah, it's chic. It's chic.
Exactly,
It's very
exactly.
2025 here.
Yeah.
You know what has been interesting here? I want to do a quick thing to talk about the rain, since you mentioned that off. I've been asked a lot about what players do when it rains
Oh yeah.
and how you kind of buy the time. And there's like two types of players here. You have the one player that you are hoping that there is a torrential downpour and that this thing gets washed and you don't have to do a single thing. Then there's the other one that's very antsy, that just wants to play constantly. They can't seem to settle themselves down. And I guess there's a third option. There is the one that wants to play, but they're kind of just, hey, they're ready whenever they go with the flow. I think I've done all three of those things at some point during my career. I've been the one that's been antsy, wanted to play. I've been the one that, oh, please let it rain because I haven't gotten a hit in about 2 weeks. And then also I finally figured out, hey, I'm going to enjoy myself. So guys play cards, guys take naps, guys might be doing certain rituals that they want the game to happen or not to happen. Apparently, like one drawing a turtle in the dirt was a big thing for a while. Creating your own baseball game. You can get a tape ball together and maybe work on your swings. And then some things we're not going to talk about on air here. We'll wait for Rip After Dark. But there are some things that you can do to pass the time. For the Birds, though, I hope in this case, I saw some comments with the 3-game set, you hope that if the game really has no chance they bang this early, for everyone's sake, for fans' sake, for players' sake, because I'll be honest, nobody wants to sit around for a game. No. And I love the game. Don't get me wrong. Sitting in a clubhouse, laying there just to know the game's going to get canceled and you can't leave.
Yeah. What are the group chats looking like right now?
Oh,
like are they all sitting there going, yo, this better get canceled soon. Yo, they better just call this. Like, is everyone kind of like, I'm not doing this rain delay stuff? Or are there a few guys who are like, we got to turn this around, starts tonight. Like, I want the ball. Are there those, people in the group chats who are like, no, this is an opportunity for us to get going?
Yeah, I'll do quick story time and then we'll get going. We were playing my last year in 2021. We were playing the Charlotte Knights in Norfolk. That's a AAA for the White Sox, Norfolk AAA for the Orioles. And it's a potential rain situation. And we did get delayed, but they didn't know if it was going to hit us or not. They delayed it in anticipation we were going to get hit. We also were on like a 7, 8, 9 game losing streak. So the boys were struggling. And then on top of it, we had then 3 players get hurt in the last 48 hours. Then 2 other had to get called up because the big league team was struggling. So it was almost like the rain delay created this chaos and this excitement that was so unprecedented that I remember laughing about it because I played right field that night. They're like, hey, Rip, can you play right? Hell yeah, I can. Put me out there. And we actually broke our losing streak that day. So some cases, things can go all wrong. Other cases, though, if you are losing a lot, people are saying like, hey, I'll just meet you somewhere else. We're going to get in, get out, and that's it. It just depends on who you're dealing with. We're like the group chat with the players, though. With the team, it's definitely not popping. You'll have the side chat.
Yeah,
that's
obviously.
What you're reviewing.
Yeah.
Like you're probably not going to text back like in the group to your manager and be like, damn, I hope this thing gets back.
Yeah, I'm not.
Except I have a couple managers that would say, I'm right there with you. Like, where are we going? That's kind of how it is.
Are you just at the mercy of the umpires at that point in minor leagues, or is it organizational thing?
Umpires and the grounds crew and whatever they're going to decide. Yeah. Some groups are unbelievable with handling it. They're like, hey, this is going to be on for a while. We're going to let you go at 1. Like that. Like I want to shake your hand. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, thank you. Then there's other guys and teams, which I don't blame them, especially on the weekends. They're like, we want to have this giveaway. Probably 20% chance we play, but we're going to keep you here. Well, now like my morale is dipping here because there's only so many things that I can do in a clubhouse over time. That's where it kind of dove down to.
And that's why you have like your all-time ping pong tournaments and stuff, right? Like that's when you get a pool table in the clubhouse.
There was card games that would get very
intense,
explosive.
Okay.
Yeah. That was probably because not every place had ping pong tables. Not every team was allowed to because they thought it'd be too competitive, too distracting.
All right.
Maybe it would tire the players out here.
Injuries.
You
swing a little too hard and strain something.
I mean, like, It is crazy because you say it, but you're not wrong. That is like a concern. Card playing was a concern as well, that we were putting too much focus into cards. Personally, I just think whatever you got to do to be ready when the lights come on and you're out there and you're playing.
Got the golden tee?
In some places they do, not every place.
Right.
But I digress. Whatever is going to work. I'll share more of the Rip After Dark stories a different time. But guys, let's dive into this because now we are at the quarter part of the season. Safe to say, if you're a Baltimore Orioles fan, you are extremely, extremely satisfied with the start of this season. This was everything that you had hoped for. The O's are fine. The team's on top of the world. I can't even fake it anymore. No, it's been a rough start, to say the least.
Yeah.
to say the least. And how do I
God,
also know that?
Hold on. Can you imagine if you actually were serious about that? As much flack as we get about, oh, you're a homer, all you do is you're a shill for the organization, all those comments. If you just like try to keep a straight face, the outpouring of rage from fans would be absolutely
Unreal.
amazing.
I also can tell how the season's going so far, but how many mentions I get on X.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, especially like this past week, one of my best friends got married. So I'm a little bit preoccupied. Now I go back and I watch the games. I watch what I have to do because I got to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
But the messages when they're heightened, I'm like, oh, okay, this and I'm not even like looking at how the game went. I go, oh, okay, this went poorly.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot more of those messages than anything else. So let's take the time to dive into it. But before we dive into it, we will play that clip from Mike Elias talking about how disappointing it is. And I will cut it off here in a second. And then we're going to do a little bit of a report card here on the Baltimore Orioles here through the first 40 games of the season. But here's that clip from Mike Elias if you missed him talking about the disappointing start. PM here. I know that this weighs on.
Yeah, as we're talking right here, I mean, we're off to an incredibly disappointing start. Had very high expectations going into the season. I think the rest of the league had high expectations for us. And to come out of the blocks with a bad record, just a lot of things going wrong everywhere you look. It's been really rough on all of us. We pour ourselves into this team. It's everything we do every day of our lives. And to have something like this happen to start the season, it's very rough. And you start to self-reflect and, things that you could do differently, things that you'll do differently going forward. But also the reality of it is we've had a lot of bad breaks too. We have a tremendous amount of talent on the injured list right now. Some of those are freak injuries, guys break a thumb or something like that. And I do think we have a lot of our young hitters or a few of our young hitters that are kind of front and center. If you look at their expected statistics, which we have nowadays, I think they're hitting into some bad luck. But the rotation's been bad, like a lot worse than I think anyone expected. And that's put us behind the 8-ball a lot. And then our lineup just hasn't been clicking. And then we've had injuries, and this is all coming on the heels of 2 really good regular seasons, but 2 playoff disappointments. So it's not something to sugarcoat. We're in a spot right now that we do not want to be, and we feel terrible about it, but we do have time on our side, and we've got a lot of talent on the field and in the organization, and we will put our weight behind figuring this out and trying to get our record better and put ourselves in a position to get back where we belong, which is in the postseason play. But, we definitely have our work cut out for us. And it's been a crappy start.
It has been a rough start, or in his case, saying crappy start. As we are doing this at again, almost quarter of the way. They're 39 games in. They're 15-25 on the season, 9 games under 500, 8 games out of first place in the American League East. So let's dive a little bit more into this of just how things have been. And yes, if you watch the game, this is not going to be a shock, but pitching-wise, that is probably the most glaring because you knew that was going to be the issue to start. They have a team ERA of 5.31. That's 4th worst in baseball. The only teams that have a worse ERA in Major League Baseball, the Nationals that are coming to town here, the Colorado Rockies that cleaned house because they've won 7 games this year. They are 7-34. And then the Miami Marlins, the home of the Kyle Stowers fan club, or we are the Kyle Stowers fan club, but home of Kyle Stowers and the Miami Marlins. He's having a sensational year, but they are dead last in team ERA at 5.70. We knew that the pitching side, guys, was going to be the problem to start, right? And if I actually pull up the bullpen ERA, and I feel bad because the bullpen got hosed on that one game against the Reds where Mateo and Sanchez, position players, count against the bullpen ERA.
Yeah.
That sucks because they have been doing their part. And if I actually have a chance to look it up right here, in 2025 right now for the Orioles, their bullpen has not been the actual quote unquote problem. It hasn't been great, but I would love to see if those numbers weren't inflated there, but they are still towards one of the worst bullpens after that outing. The reality is their number's still a 5 ERA.
Yeah.
I think the ERA would have been in the lower 4s, right? So middle of the pack. Okay. I think where the biggest shock has been is the hitting situation. Kevin, you haven't looked at this yet, I don't think. Where do you think the Orioles rank hitting at this point in time?
I haven't seen the stats for average. I do know they rank dead last in almost every single statistical category for runners in scoring position.
That is situational hitting. They've been horrid. Average-wise, they're hitting 227 on the season, which is 5th worst in baseball. Once again, Chicago White Sox, the Angels who they just played, the Rockies, and the Pirates are the only worst in baseball. Texas is one spot ahead of them, and Texas just fired their hitting coach and hired Brett Boone. We'll see how that plays out. I think that one right there is the biggest issue, at least what happened. I do agree with Michael Elias. Did anyone expect that this pitching staff was going to be that bad? The fact that Charlie Morton and Kyle Gibson, every game that they've pitched so far this season, the Orioles have lost.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I think Zach also had, and I had the sentiment, in our own personal chats about this, about just like how old they all are. So I think the risk of the pitching being this bad certainly was there. Charlie Morton, obviously very emotional last week, just talking about what's been going on with him. Is it age? Is it something else? We don't really know, but Kyle Gibson also isn't very young either. So there is definitely the age factor here as far as that's concerned. So there was some risk with the pitching being bad. But to your point, there is some things that aren't able to be helped, such as on the hitting side with Colton Cowser and Jordan Westberg, two of your best bats, your really good bats that are now on the IL, have been for a while. And so I think once they come back, we could see that average go up some. But regardless, the guys that are healthy just aren't playing all that well.
No, and it's still a lot of the big names are there, right? And I want to preface this. Your lineup, you have to make up what you need to have success, right? It's not that you got to have all boppers, right? We understand what I say with boppers. Like you consider Gunnar Henderson a bopper. Why? Because he can drive the ball to the ballpark and be an RBI guy. What I love seeing with Maverick Hanley getting an opportunity the other day, Maverick is do whatever's asked of you, right? Not a bopper, but he put down a squeeze, sacrifice fly, not a bopper. I would consider a guy that would pass the baton a little bit. And he's not doing it right now, but he's a kind of a hybrid. Like that's an Adley Rutschman. Adley's like, hey, I'm going to pass the baton. I can hit for power, but we'll get into all the struggles with him. Said he's a hybrid. Tyler O'Neill's a power guy, but the point being is we're still talking about a few things that are similar. You need guys to be able to move fluidly through the lineup, and they haven't been able to put that together. Kevin, you mentioned about how bad they've been with runners in scoring position. They leave the most runners on base almost per game. Like it is high how many times they're leaving a guy on base there, and the 1 for 10s, the 1 for 13s. And I'm okay with that if you get that run in, but they're not getting the runs in, and that's affecting them and impacting them. Colton Cowser will help. Jordan Westberg would help. Those are 2 all-star type players.
Although like I think Westberg, yes. And, but in their positions, like if we look at Westberg would take over for Emmanuel Rivera. Emmanuel Rivera has been probably one of the only guys that feels like he's actually coming up with runners in scoring position. You then, okay, Gary Sanchez eventually comes back. He takes Maverick Hanley's spot, who is already proven he will find a way to what we've all been asking, find a way to get guys in without having to get a hit. It just feels like, okay, Westberg and them come back, Cowser comes back, and now maybe Laureano is playing less. Laureano's been one of your guys that has been producing with runners in scoring position. So I think it's with the injuries, I think it's a, double-sided sort of, you're going to need still these guys like the Gunners, the Adleys, the Cedrics to come, Cedric obviously started out incredible, had a little bit of a rough stretch, then is starting to put it back on. but those guys are going to have to continuously be that leader. So, Westberg and them, I'm not worried about Westberg. I think he was injured throughout this beginning part of the season. That's why he started out so poorly. But I still think that there's just this mentality that the Orioles are lacking with runners in scoring position. And it was a big issue last year. And I think the biggest thing I've seen is, Cody Ashley gets interviewed and they ask him what differentiates them from last year's team that was seen offensively fell off a cliff. And his whole answer was about how they're almost similar. They're almost the same. It's the same. And that brings the question of, if you are continuously doing the same thing over and over and continuously getting worse and worse, because last year it was bad. Now it's the worst in baseball. I just don't see where they're heading with that. Like, I don't know if players are necessarily the biggest culprits of that, because we've seen it for now almost an entire 162, 130 games of this seems like an organizational, they are not hitting with runners in scoring position.
Yeah, how do you fix that, Rip? Like, what's the fix for runners in scoring position? Like, it's such a weird stat to be.
I feel like everyone's playing hero ball. Everyone wants to hit the 3-run homer instead of just getting the sac fly.
Fair, but like, how do you
fix it is the question. Well, if every team could magically just fix it, they would, right? Because the Pittsburgh Pirates are a team where their starting rotation that they should not be as bad as they have been. But it's because their offense is not doing enough, and then their rotation is not holding up their end of the bargain enough. Just like in this circumstance, you knew that the starting rotation was going to be rough to start. It was very in dire need once Zach Eflin went down, and now he's back, thank goodness. So the pressure was on your offense to be the strength.
Yeah.
And the guys, when I mentioned that, I think people really underestimate what it takes for a lineup to have success. I still go back to this story that hitting coach in the Orioles named Keith Bodie told me a long time ago. And you guys might be too young. Zach, you might have not been born yet, but you should have been. No, but Carlos Lee was his name. Oh. And Keith Bodie told a story about Carlos Lee, who was rehabbing when Keith Bodie was rehabbing in the minor leagues, and Keith Bodie was coaching on the team. And Carlos Lee talked to the players. And Carlos, if you go up and look at his numbers, Carlos was a huge RBI guy. Huge RBI guy.
Huge guy, too.
And a huge guy. But they asked him, but the story was, well, Carlos, what's the secret to getting runners in? What's the secret of having high RBI numbers? And he goes, when a guy's on third base and there's less than 2 outs, and the defense is back, I'm hitting the ball to the shortstop. They go, huh? They go, no, I'm just trying to hit a ground ball right at the middle. I don't care what happens. I'm just trying to get the bat to the ball, and I'll collect my RBI. If I do that enough at the end of the season, things are going to work out. So I thought that was a fascinating conversation, because we know he's not always going to hit the ball to the shortstop,
right? But
he's simplifying his thought. And I think with some of the guys, when you have a guy on third base,
just get the ball in play.
You try to do too much, or you think, well, I need to get it in play, but I get a little bit too hesitant. It's like, no, don't change anything. Keep your approach. I think more so with the guys is the approach just has to continue to get better. And then once you have success with it, that grows. I think a lot of the guys, they're having doubts. And that's kind of what I'll get into when I talk about Adley. You second guess yourself in situations. And I think that's something, Brad, I don't know if that's something you can really teach. The best thing you can do is simple approach. Let's try to get this ball in. Aaron Judge is the reason why he's hitting 400 right now. Mm-hmm. It's not just because he is a mammoth of a human being that can hit everything and anywhere at any time. If you listen to Aaron Judge talk, look at my grammar, he even mentions, I'm just trying to hit a line drive at the second baseman. 2 strikes, I'm just trying to hit a ball at the second baseman. And then he hits a bullet, hits a home run, and he's saying that approach keeps me on. And I think that's something that some of the guys are having trouble.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't work, they're second guessing themselves constantly. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you got to do it. So that's what I have with that. And Carlos Lee, by the way, did you look up his stats, Zach, by any chance?
No, I did not. Let me go.
I'll tell you that right now. For a stretch, go look at it. Actually, you look it up. Look at his stretch from 2003 to 2009. In one of those years, he got hurt. But every other full season that he had. I want you to, when you pull it up, you let me know.
Yeah, I got Baseball Reference. So from 03 to 09, we won RBIs.
And games where he played at least the full amount. So let's just say from 2003.
Yeah, so 03, he had 113. He then had 99, 114, 116. He didn't play a full season in 06 or 06. Actually, no, he did. He just got traded. My bad. So, gosh, they're making me do math. 136, carry the one. 119, 100, 102. Just produce.
Pretty damn good, right? And we're looking at batting averages. Yes, it's a guy that hit 265, 300, 286, 303. The average, when you do your job and you simplify your approach, everything else takes care of itself. And I think for this Orioles squad, they were having a tough time figuring out what their role is. What do you need to do to get on base? And at the end of the day, how do you get them in? And that's something Baltimore has had struggles with last year to this year. Philosophically, with 2 strikes, there's no secret, Brad. It hasn't been good. And I think that that's something where you have to commit to a change. You have to see success with a change. And then your mindset can start to then evolve. So hopefully for the Orioles, they continue to get better. Before we go to the positives about like, hey, there could be some things they're turning. I'm assuming if we're doing a report card grade on the Orioles to start off this way, it's not very high. I mean, do you want to give a grade for yourself, Brad? Do you want to start that off?
It's definitely an F. I mean, how could you, with such high expectations and then what seemingly is an absolute collapse at the beginning of the season? I mean, I don't know where the positives lie right now with an Orioles team such as the one that goes on the field every night right now. Right now. Not saying they can't be better, but right now it's an F.
Kev?
F. I mean, just based off the expectations, if we're talking about a team, I mean, this feels worse than the 100 loss seasons.
Yeah, because and that's what I was saying. So I don't mean to interrupt you, Kevin, but somebody had made a mention of why aren't people up in arms about the Rockies and blah, blah, blah. And this was before Black got let go. But it's just because everybody knew the Rockies were going to suck.
Right. Everybody
thought the O's were going to be a top 3 team again this year. And they didn't just take 1 step back; they took 10 steps back, and that's why there's so much attention being drawn to the
there have been things that have happened this year. Injuries are certainly one of them, but I don't want to really use that excuse because every team is going through it. I mean, the Yankees have gone through it, the Dodgers are everybody's going through it.
Right.
And, it's just part of the game, and the way this offseason went for them, kind of, Brad, you talked about this, where there was always going to be that risk signing these older players. And, this was an outcome that was very possible because they lost Corbin Burns. They didn't really do anything. Ryan, you've talked about Crochet being an option for them that they probably missed on. And even if Corbin was never coming back, and if Evaldi always wanted to go back to Texas, and, there were guys that weren't options for them, it just felt like there weren't contingency plans, and signing arms. It's good to have arms. You need to have as many arms as possible, but there was always going to be an outcome like this. But to that same point, you have had Gunnar healthy for most of, not the beginning, early part, but most of the season. Adley's been in there, and, Jackson has certainly come on. You're seeing contributions, but it really feels like this offense has been carried by Ryan O'Hearn and Cedric Mullins. And I know Ceddy's going through it right now with a bit of although, hey, on Sunday, he put some stuff together. I just think that the way that this has gone, they're in a 9-game under 500 hole about halfway through the month of May, which was supposed to be their easy part of the schedule.
Yep.
Series wins don't really get you anywhere at this point in terms of getting back to even 500 by the time you have to start discussing whether you want to be a buyer or a seller. If you win a series 2 out of 3 games, you're 1 game better than you were at the start of the series. And if you do that 9 times, we're going to be in the middle of June, early July at that point, which, at that point, who's buying, who's selling. I'm not saying the Orioles should sell off their whole team or anything, but I think discussions are going to have to be had at some point, especially if they can't really capture this end of the month of May.
My mom said if I don't have anything nice to say, not to say anything at all. Kevin hit the nail on the head there. It's been a disappointing. It's an F.
Yeah, I think it's if you go simple, you go pass or fail. It's definitely not pass.
Yeah.
Right now, the beauty of it is They got 3 more quarters of the season to go. Now it does get to a point, though, where you're going to have to sit there and realize, do we really have a shot? The rest of this month of May, we got 17, 18 days or whatever games left in the month. It's going to be a really telling sign here. Can the Orioles creep back towards 500? If they can, you're right kind of back on schedule of being able to make a run. But if you continue to struggle, that's where things can be in a tough spot. So let's do the positive real quickly. And then we'll get into, since you talked about too early to talk about trades, rumors, they're out there.
I'll talk about them if you tell
Not
me
in this
to.
media
I'll
world.
talk-
Not in this media world.
Zach and I were talking about trades on day 2 of the season.
The Orioles lost game 2 of the season to go 1-1, and me and Kevin were talking about the 2026 free agency class on the street.
Jesus Christ.
That makes that makes the perfect sense.
It does.
But if there's 2 things, though, that are really big positives for me, why I think that the Orioles pitching staff can get back on a somewhat of a rhythm is that the month of April is over for our guy, Dean Kramer.
Yep.
And Dino's off to a fantastic start
He is.
to May. 2 outings, 7 innings of work in both. No earned runs versus Kansas City, 2 earned runs. Unfortunately, they lost that second one in Minnesota. And then our guy, Tomoyuki Sagano, Tommy Sugar. The dude has been pitching extremely, extremely efficient. Really the entire year, no outing, knocking on wood, over 3 earned runs allowed. Majority of his outings have gone 5+ innings, including 4 of his last 5 outings have gone 6 or more innings. And then last outing, he went 7 1/3, his best outing of the season. So Tomo was picking it up. And then Zach Eflin. And I know that, here's the bias. No, we want to talk about bias facts, Ryan. Here's the facts. The Orioles have won 3 of the 4 games that Zach Eflin has pitched.
Yep.
How about that for a fact? And he's missed his last 3 starts. He would have had 4 starts. So you factor in Zach Eflin, Dean getting better, and Tomo. Now you're hoping, can Cade Povich take a step? If he takes a step, you're feeling better. And then obviously Charlie Morton, they're going to have to make a decision on what's going to happen with him. And we are not going to discuss with Grayson Rodriguez. I love G-Rod. I hope the best. You just can't count on him for the rest of the season. You hope he comes back, but for now, not in the equation. Same thing with Tyler Wells. Same thing for Kyle Bradish.
Bradish and Wells are at least throwing in the bullpen right now.
That's great to see. And you want to give him a chance to come back.
The way that I view it, and we've talked about this multiple times, and Kevin and I have touched on this a few times, especially after Eflin returned. If you give me Eflin, Tomo pitching the way he is, those 2 as your 1-2, Dean after May or after April. So we're now past that, his slow start, the way Cade's pitching. And then you can find that final piece in the bullpen or in the rotation, preferably if it's in trade, someone to go up in that 2 or 3 spot, another high-end guy. If you can get that, and then on top of all that, this is why I keep on, saying it's the big difference maker. If you get Kyle Bradish or Tyler Wells back and they pitch the way that they can, that is an incredible bonus. You cannot rely on that. If you are relying on, we got Bradish coming back, he can be an ace. Kyle Bradish is one of the best pitchers in baseball when he's healthy. You cannot just get him back, whether it's, even if it is this season, if it's late September, late August, whatever it is. It's not fair to him to be like, hey, Kyle, you got to be the team's ace. We did not acquire anyone if they're going to go for it this year, if they fight themselves back by the deadline with this rotation, because the pitching has not been the problem recently. And after this, I do have a quick thing about the offense to show that it is kind of starting to go in the right direction as well. But they have a decent rotation right now. If you can add another piece, I think, especially because I do not expect the offense to continue like this, they have a good enough staff to make at least get back to 500. If Eflin, if Tomo, if all of them can stay healthy, I think they have enough talent. I don't think they have any front end guys, although I think if Tomo was like 28, he'd be in that discussion. I think they have a lot of guys that know how to win games, though.
It's all about putting the recipe together. And for the Orioles, we looked at the rest of their month. If they're going to have a moving month, this would be it. Now the Twins are one of the hottest teams in baseball. Cardinals are just the only team that's hotter than them. They've won 9 in a row. Twins have won 8. And people could say, hey, the Orioles got them hot. The Twins have a really good starting rotation.
Yeah.
And now they're building some confidence up. The AL Central, we'll get into that later. That division as a whole has been something. What you got, Zach?
First off, just I know it's been said in the chat a few times and all over Twitter. Game is postponed.
Damn.
Yeah, so it's going to be at 12:05 doubleheader tomorrow. So game
Until
is
the
postponed.
triple header on Thursday.
I'm telling you, Kevin, 3 wins one day. The
That's how
amount
you
of
make up
O's
ground.
are, and
That's
the
how you make
amount
up
of O's are back tweets that I will be firing off for a 3-0 day. But we're talking about, things starting to turn around a little bit. Let's go last 10 games. Here are the offensive stats for the Orioles, or specific Orioles players over the team's last 10 games. Ramon Urias is batting 500 and just, 2 for 4. Manuel Rivera batting 375. You got Gunnar Henderson with 40. That's over 24 at bats. Gunnar Henderson over 41 at bats is batting 341. Ryan O'Hearn over 29 at bats is batting 310. Mountcastle 39 at bats batting 308. Kids putting it together. Jackson Holiday, biggest bust in Major League history over the last 33 at bats, batting 303. That can't be right. Heston Kjerstad, batting 259, Laureano 192, and then Adley 189. So there's still some guys struggling. Cedric batting 103, but he went through that big stretch. I think there are signs of this team, especially in the biggest ones. I'm going to be honest. The biggest ones I'm happy about are Holiday. I love Gunnar. I love O'Hearn. I love because Gunner's got to be the focal point of this offense. When Gunnar last season was the MVP frontrunner, that's when the Orioles offense was unbelievable. Yeah. He was leading off the game with the home run. Okay, we're up 1-0. Then all of a sudden, here comes a 2 RBI double in 3 innings later. And then the offense fed off that. You get a guy like Hopefully, we've talked about, I'm not sure with runners in scoring position because I love Manuel Rivera right now. Westberg, all he does is produce. When he's healthy, he's going to produce. You get Kowser back eventually. The talent is there, and it's starting to feel like it's putting it together. But I also feel like we've been saying this for 110 games for the Orioles, so they're going to have to sustain it. But if you are looking for a sign as an Orioles fan that, hey, things are maybe starting to look better than they have, pitching staff is looking better. It's getting healthier. And the offense is starting to turn around. So,
and they face the 8th best staff in baseball with the Minnesota Twins. That will start tomorrow with the rain out tonight. And the only other thing I heard right there, Zach, is that you're only happy for a few of the players doing well, not the rest of them. You wanted to make the emphasis. Man, I love it. I love that Jackson Holiday is doing well. Hey, what about the whole team, Zach? Have a little bit of feel and love for the entire squad.
I sat there last season, and every time Jackson Holiday looked at a strike 3 that was also 2 balls outside, but no one on the internet cares, I watched him get shit on for months. I am taking in every second of him just raking right now.
Yep. And again, hopefully the Birds, that offense can start getting going. Because if it does, that will make a lot of people feel a whole heck of a lot better. But hey, if you guys are new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We do this live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right here on YouTube and X. And it's a big week here. Obviously, we're talking the Birds. The NFL schedule is getting released later on. We'll discuss that later on in the show. But because of the situation here, and we can never escape it, just like some can say you can never escape him. That's Cedric Mullins. Well, there's a report out right now, Brad, that, hey, it's too early for trade talks, but John Morosi on MLB Network put out a thought that, one Cedric Mullins could be the guy that some main contenders could want if the Orioles ever were to let him go. So, Brad, can we play that clip for the audience?
Meanwhile, 7.5 back in that division. It has been a rough start, to say the least. Are we at the point where we talk deadline now, or is that way too soon?
It's a little bit too soon, Lauren, but certainly as we're looking at the outlook and how things might unfold, I've got one name circled on that Orioles lineup, and that is Cedric Mullins, who's off to an excellent start, is a pending free agent. And when you think about the type of player who makes a massive impact at the deadline, it's this type of player and person. Of course, Dero had Cedric on Team USA. It says a lot about him personally and professionally. His character, he can steal you a base. He can play above average defense. He can bat anywhere you need in the lineup. And for the number of teams out there that need a center fielder, if you were to take a comparison, as much as there's been rumblings about Luis Robert Jr. for a long time, Mullins has an easier contract to move. He's playing better right now than Robert is, and he's a pending free agent. For all those reasons, you think about the Phillies being a tremendous fit for him. I would even see a team like the Rangers possibly being a good fit for Cedric Mullins. There are very few teams in baseball for whom he would not be a good fit. It would not add something meaningful to their player contribution. So I think right now Cedric Mullins on the short list of potential impact position players moved at the deadline, unless the Orioles go on some kind of amazing
Orioles
run. I know,
fans
Lauren,
not liking this.
all the fans in the DMV
One
want me
bit.
to add this clause and say unless they really get going, which they may, but the time is getting short.
I would hate everything about it.
Yeah, even if the O's are still where they are at right now, who are they going to replace Seti with at center field?
Well, I mean, they would. I mean, Kowser would come back. They would probably put Kowser or
That's terrible.
Well, and it's not that I don't understand the business side of it. A business move, if you're like, hey, Cedric's a free agent, and you have no
hope.
Well, I wouldn't say hope. If you really aren't going to consider bringing him back, if you're not going to bring Cedric Mullins back, you make the move.
Yeah.
But if you keep him, you better keep him in Baltimore past 2025, 6, 7. You better keep him here.
Yeah.
That's only my thing. And at some point for a team, you have guys that embody what it means to be a Baltimore Oriole. And I think right now fans are still worried because no players have re-signed yet. And we've already talked about it. If I'm a young Orioles player and they have their agents and the Orioles too, it's a risk for both sides, and not everyone wants to get on the same page there. You can look around baseball, and even though the Braves were rewarded with some contracts, some of those guys haven't lived up to the contracts later on. Julio Rodriguez, if we go to the Mariners, hasn't been the Julio Rodriguez that signed that deal when he was crowned the next best player of all time. You know, like that's how what people were thinking. Julio Rodriguez is going to be one of the best outfielders we have ever seen. Still a very talented player, hasn't lived up to the contract. I just think if you're trying to build with what you have, Cedric Mullins is a guy that the community loves, the city loves. His style of play impacts the Orioles.
The clubhouse loves.
And I think when the Orioles lost Santander, or they chose not to re-sign him, which I still think was the right move because look how much he signed for.
Yeah.
And when you're looking to project out, I still project Cedric to play center field for the next 3 years at least. So if you're saying, hey, I can give Cedric a 3-year deal and he can be my guy out there, I like that component. Santander, you couldn't see that future, but people were really hurt. Why? He was one of the longest tenured guys on the team.
Well, and you've talked about this multiple times over as far as having that veteran presence in the clubhouse. What better veteran to have in the clubhouse right now than somebody who's been through the worst of it and the best of it with this club, and seeing them through adversity, other than the vet, Cedric Mullins.
No, the vet. I think that part gets undermined in sports. Is
Overlooked?
Yes, or undermined, overlooked in sports. However, yeah, overlooked might be the correct term. At the end of the day, players are still human, and there's two sides of it that they look at. Are they comfortable in a place that has been good to them? And they also got to look out for the business side. They got to look out for their livelihood. We're seeing it across sports. I mean, Kevin, you were talking about seeing how it's happening with the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson, and it's getting a little ugly, right? Because people want their money. I don't blame Trey Hendrickson, but that's getting a little bit uglier.
Mm-hmm.
I don't blame him, though. You got to make that choice. In baseball, Corbin Burns made a choice. He got paid, went back home. Santander went to the highest bidder. Cedric Mullins, he's going to have a choice to some extent, but it's also a really good opportunity if they want to keep him. It's a good look for everything. So I really think this move solely is going to come down to, if it ever gets to that, to the Baltimore Orioles see that they're going to have Cedric Mullins in their future. If they don't, then yeah, you should trade him. But if you want him to be a Baltimore Oriole, keep him here. And then that's going to give people a sign of approval of, you kept him. Well, great. I hope that we have another guy that can become an Orioles legend. Because you know what, over time, there hasn't been a lot of Orioles legends, at least in the last decade. The last ones was that final group. You can say Adam Jones, J.J. Hardy, Chris Davis had his run. But Cedric Mullins, I think, could be in that category if the Orioles decide to keep him. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We do this live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And on Wednesdays, we're cooking with the Iron Rooster right here, cooking with Kyle. And as always, we are staying fit here with our friends over at Merit Clubs. And look, you can go to meritclubs.com, and we're still running that promo here. You get 2 weeks free, and I'll add that link to the chat. You guys click on that link and use the code RIP25. 2 weeks free at Merit Clubs. And you know what we should do today? Maybe Sam decides the fate for who has to do the fitness test tomorrow. How about that?
Kevin's not gonna be here.
I'm not going to be here,
Kevin's
so
not gonna be here.
I'm not going to be
You know
here.
what?
You can't choose me.
Oh, we can still. Well, no, we might have to have Sam do a
Another
pop a
time.
shot. Sam might have to do the pop a
Okay.
shot after it to
Oh.
see what
Alright.
happens.
All right.
And we bet on how many Sam makes.
Don't let me down, Sam.
Could be.
Man, a lot of pressure
A
on
lot of pressure. Day one.
on Mr.
Day
Intern.
one. Day one. Here's a whole show in your hands. Here we go.
Whole show. It is unbelievable. Well, guys, I would like to get into a little bit of a breakdown, but while I'm getting ready to set up, do we want to transition with a couple of notes? Maybe Zach would be a good time to talk about, I don't know, what you found recently
Yeah.
on your browsing
Yes.
history.
Yeah, let's talk about it. As you may know, the Indiana Pacers are just having their way with the fraudulent Cleveland Cavaliers. And a lot of people are thinking it's talent on the field is the big deciding factor, or on the court. Sorry, it's not. It's all about the halftime shows, and this is the greatest halftime show I've ever seen. How can you wait for it? There's no way to lose. You cannot lose
Yeah,
after this happened.
that's it.
That's the series.
Series over.
That's the series. I mean, this dog is dancing on the Cleveland Cavaliers grave.
Another piece
We won't talk about things we need. So if you want to
Every
pass
Nuggets-
that
every
word,
Nuggets player over.
if you want to pass that word around Kevin too to Aaron Gordon,
you know,
things we need from the Nuggets.
I'll text them. Sure.
I'm just saying. But yeah, so the dog dancing, jump roping, and also I did not grab it I did not grab it to pull up, but the Mets producer, I believe it is. Shoot, I wanted to properly. I'll pull it up soon so I can properly credit him. Is going viral for he is using inspirations from different famous movies for his just how they produce the game, and some of the camera angles and shots that he's gotten over the year is incredible, and he's going viral for it right now, and it's been really cool to watch. So go team.
Well, all right.
We're getting there.
All right.
Oh. Can you guys hear me okay? Do I sound
Yeah.
majestic?
Still good.
Do I look majestic? Not yet.
Somewhat.
Somewhat. I wonder, can I just even pull this mic off and hold it in my hand?
It's a little bit
nope.
too heavy for that, but
Oh, you want to watch this? Yeah, watch that. How about that? Bam. What about this? Come on.
This is what we're doing.
This. You know what, Zach? I'm just
Why
trying
don't
to.
we here?
hey, you know what else you can do? Can somebody lose the dog toy behind Rip?
We're a family-friendly, dog-friendly place in
pet
here.
friendly show.
Mr. Puppy is making his rounds.
Thank you.
Nope. There we go. Beautiful. Can we see? All right. Ready to rock and roll in this, Adley Rutschman?
Yep.
All right. And you guys can hear me okay? Kevin, give me a little bark if you can hear me okay.
Roof.
What was that?
Roof.
Roof.
Is that what dogs do? They raise the roof.
They do. You didn't know?
Jesus Christ.
That's something. Heel, Cinnamon. And we need this to stay.
Yeah, don't get so excited.
I don't know why this is not staying.
Well, because you had to mess with it.
Yep.
And it's also all the way out.
Well, that's fine. That's how we do it here. But hey, you know what we also do? We go over breakdowns every week here, right on the Ryan Ripken Show. So I think one of the highest talking points or players that people want to know, like, what the hell's going on? It's with Adley Rutschman, right? And Adley's a guy where I know the numbers are down, and specifically they're down across the board, but from the right-handed side as a hitter, they're down. But I wanted to show a little bit of what I'm seeing so far, at least from the lefty side, and why I'm not concerned as him as a left-handed hitter. So earlier on in the season, Adley was hitting home runs galore, and we'll get into the opening day weekend. But what I loved with him, and you're going to see with these swings, a lot of fastballs, change-ups, middle part of the plate. There we go. Really? Yep.
What's happening?
I don't know. Just one of those days.
Nothing's working.
Nothing's working.
Not try. Oh. Nope. Still not working. Okay.
Really good. No.
Uh-oh.
It's like it's timing out. What a day. Let's click that again.
Well, it's already, yeah, you can still see it's on there.
Yeah, we'll use Zach here in a second. Shirts and pants, man. Well, I guess like I can still use it without.
Yeah, just
drawing.
play and pause.
Okay,
it,
we'll
it's
play
fine.
and pause. It's fine. It's just not as good. It's not as exactly what I want.
Just
to
lose
do.
the toolbar.
Yeah, we'll lose that. Get out of here. Okay. So anyway, one of the big things that I want to talk about with Adley is when he's had success with the pop and the power, he's pulled his home runs and most of his extra base hits. And you're going to see it's going to be over the heart of the plate here where he is right on it. And if you look at it right now, common theme, watch where his eyes are and watch where the bat is. So that's the first one right here we're going to show against the Blue Jays 2-0 count. Big ball there, feeling good. Now we're going to keep going back. It's going to be a little Toronto Blue Jays moment here after this next home run. But same thing, fastball in, but look at his head, down at the ball. Everything's in sync, smokes it out. Now, obviously, that was a rough game for the Orioles, but a great swing for Adley Rutschman. Here's opening day where Adley, it looked like he was going to hit 45, 50 jacks on the year. But everything that he's doing with his left-handed swing, he just seems in sync. Doesn't matter if it's a fastball, changeup, he's relaxed, and he's locked in. So here's one more for you. So right over, eyes looking at the ball, connecting, getting extended, and everything's in one motion. So what I mean by that of saying one motion, it's really Adley's going right here when he's getting set, and it's a clear path to the ball. There's no hesitation. There's no hitch. There's nothing. And so I'm really encouraged that the left-handed side for him is going to get back going. You know why? Because he's still having balls like this where he can hit the ball away and drive the baseball. Again, I know that's early on in the season, but I've still seen a lot of that from his left-handed swing. So the results are going to come for him. I truly do believe that. Here's another one in Kansas City, pitched middle in, and he's driving this ball to left center. That's a really good sign. Left-handed hitters, they want to drive the baseball to the opposite field gap. Now, this is kind of where when I'm looking at for Adley as a right-hander, and here's Danny Coulombe, which I know everyone wishes Danny was still here in Baltimore. Danny is a funky guy. You got to wait back. But I thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk about with Adley here because a tendency that we're going to start to see, and before we were talking about head being down and shoulder being in, see a little theme here. He's going to be out in front, body's out in front, shoulders going out in front, right? He's not staying back as much versus left-handed pitching. Here's another example. And this is when you know things aren't necessarily going right. That's a tough pitch. that might be a ball right there. But if you're a little bit more aggressive and you're feeling good, you're going to swing at more of these types of pitches. Here's another fastball. All right, might be off the plate. It's close. So Adley, I don't blame him for this, but this is one right here, right down the middle. The head already off the baseball, and he's going, dang. I want to rewind that, and I'd love for this dang thing to work because I would love to explain this more.
No.
I did place it later. Hold on. I'm going to try one more idea. Let's try this one more time. Come on.
Uh-oh.
We're good.
Nope.
Amazing. Well, we're just going to have to just get rid of this entire board and the roadcaster and everything in
Just going to
between.
throw it right out the
We're
window.
going to throw everything out here. Sam, first job as an intern, you're going to pick this thing up
Figure
and
it,
huck it.
figure it out.
All right, but
Even though it weighs more than
You
you.
don't
Yes.
want to get it in the elevator.
oh my
No,
goodness,
Jesus.
forgot about that. But
The elevator was horrible.
Yeah.
let's talk about this a little bit more, though, with Adley. So remember I talked about how everything was very fluid with this swing. So he's going to swing, and everything's going, whatever his toe tap is, it's going right to the ball. You're going to see it's almost like this extra movement that he's trying to gear up. And as he's trying to swing, that bat's not coming through the zone. It's like this extra movement, and he's seeing it a little bit later. It's like, okay, there's that one right there. Okay, a little bit of that extra movement. That's the same pitch right over the heart of the plate. And this shoulder, the bat's not coming through the zone. There's a little bit of a hesitation. Then his head's pulling off the baseball hair, and you're going, damn, 92. And Bubic is very, very deceptive. But it's kind of like a theme here for Adley where he's just coming off the ball a little bit more as a right-handed hitter. 87-mile-an-hour pitch. Sorry, that was the strikeout before. Here's the 87-mile-an-hour pitch from Daniel Lynch. Body's starting to go out in front a little bit. It just seems like nothing's as relaxed and simple for him. He's missing pitches he can drive. He's not staying back and seeing the ball long enough. Here's another example of the only one where it's like, dang, okay, this is almost like his left-handed swing, but he's early. He's going to smoke this ball down the line. And you're going, damn, that's a really good swing, just a hair early. But it looked like to me he was gearing up for that fastball. So he was ready for it. He's getting certain pitches to hit, but it just seems like the bat is just a little bit slower and he's not picking it up as well. This might be the best example. This ball's going to be right down Broadway. I mean, Zach, where's this pitch?
Right down Broadway.
And so right now when he's swinging, where's Adley's body moving?
Out.
Yeah.
It's moving out. So usually when we saw that left-handed swing, everything was in, and then when he finished, he could fall away. But when he made contact with where the ball was, bat was through the zone. Right now it's not. And you're seeing weak fly balls to right, popping balls up to left, where it's like, dang, it's close, but it's not there. And then also it becomes a confidence issue. If you're not hitting the pitches that you expect to hit, then you're going to take balls right down the middle. And I've gotten a lot of comments about that, right? Why is Adley taking so many pitches? Well, typically he likes to take, right?
Yeah.
But you're definitely going to take more if you're not seeing it as well. And right there, that's a very hittable pitch. That's in the seventh inning of a close game. And Adley takes a fastball from, it's a funky lefty, but that's a very, very hittable pitch. And he was doing that more so than not. So I think it's a combination right now that Adley is not as confident. I love this at bat right here, where this is first pitch swinging, change up, and he's going to hit it right off the end. But perfect. Ball drops in. Awesome. He has moments here where it's there. And this is the last example right here. He smokes this ball. Now, again, it's a changeup. So when I look back at everything with Adley as a right-handed hitter, I'm seeing a guy that maybe is a little bit out in front and a little bit too quick, and he's not catching up with the high heat. Those are the two things that I noticed the most with him. But that lefty swing, if we go back, And we're just showing a couple more of the right-handed ones. The righty just seems like it's just a hair off, whether it's his timing, whether it's his load. But watch this left-handed swing one more time. Everything is on. It's easy. It's simple. There's a freeness to it. There's not an extra movement. It's almost like you can see where the bat's about to go before the ball's hit. With a righty, doesn't it feel like it's just taking a hair too long to get there?
Yeah.
So right here, at this point, we were already trying to see the bat. It's almost just like, and it's just a little bit. And that could be a combination of trying to wrap the bat, might be a little bit off. And one thing I want people to give a little bit of grace to, it's hard to switch hit. You don't see it a lot anymore. But right there, bat's still hidden, ball's coming out. So it's almost like when I feel like you're hiding too much and your hands can't get to the baseball, you have to overcompensate and you got to pull off the ball to get to the baseball. And that's what Adley did there. I think we're just seeing a guy that he can feel the pressure of the world on his shoulders. You know he's trying to get things going. You know it's on his mind. You know contract conversations are definitely popping up. But I think lefty Adley is going to be fine. Righty Adley is just going to have to battle himself a little bit more and more. But if he's able to continue to grind, and this is the one we'll end with again, if he can get this swing going consistently from the right side, he's going to turn out okay. But for right now, he's going to have to continue to find ways to get better and ride it out here. And for Birdland, don't forget, this guy has the capabilities of doing a whole lot more of that. The biggest thing is, can he continue to make the adjustments and be able to get out of his head? And I'll explain a little bit more when I sit back down. But hi-ya! Hit that like and subscribe button if you like this breakdown. Ryan Ripken Show. We do this every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday right here on YouTube. And hopefully next time we'll have a fixed telestrator. If not, we'll have a new intern and a new telestrator at the same time.
Rip,
Yeah, there you go.
Listen, the Short Kings unite. There's a lot of questions here. Should Adley consider just going straight lefty like Cedric Mullins did?
I don't think so, just because if you look at his numbers last year, I mean, Adley hit, 329. Can you pull that up real quickly, Zach? I'm pretty sure when I was looking at all of it, he crushed lefties last year. Truly did. So I don't have a problem with it. Mark Teixeira talked about this, about the struggles of hitting both ways. And you have to find out what feels good with your swing one day and what doesn't on a different day. Do you have those stats?
Yeah, Adley batted 329 with 7 home runs and 33 RBIs in 182 plate appearances against lefties last year. I'm not gonna lie, I also kind of forgot about that because of it's almost like it's reversed
because of the struggles. And right now he's hitting $167 or something like that against lefties. So it's not that he can't do it. He's proven he can do it. I'm going to pull up that clip then, because this is the one time for it to be relevant. Is I know that people will look at with Mark Teixeira in this area and be mad. Mark Teixeira is one of the best switch hitters of our time. And so why I want to bring that up, I'm looking at a guy for Adley that's trying to find his right-handed swing while also fighting himself altogether. I think he has had a tremendous amount of bad luck. I think that he's never been a high exit velo guy to me. He's not going to be the Gunnar Henderson, hit the ball 112 miles an hour. But he's a guy that has good bat-to-ball skills, but he's just a hair off. So if I can pull this clip up from Mark Teixeira, I think it's a really good indication for people of getting in the mind of how hard it is to switch hit and why we're not seeing as many guys do it anymore, because it is a lot to ask, specifically from players that are trying to compartmentalize so much. So I got it right here. I'm going to throw it in there. When I move, you move, Zach.
just like that.
Who sings it?
Luda.
There we go. Okay, here we go. Let's play that clip for you guys from Mark Teixeira on switch hitting. Switch hitting. And I know there's different intricacies, and one of the switch hitters in Baltimore, Adley Rutschman, right? You can tell a difference with his swing when it's a lefty swing versus a righty. You mentioned briefly, but if you talked a little bit more, what's the biggest challenge what was the biggest
Yep.
challenge for you then when you had to deal with that in certain matchups? Because there's no way that those swings were feeling even both sides of the plate were feeling great at all times.
No, first of all, two different swings. Like I was a completely different hitter right-handed than left-handed. So I'm right-handed dominant, throw right-handed. So left, my bottom hand was my power hand, left-handed. So I wanted the ball down, and I got long arms, so I wanted the ball out over the plate, and I wanted to create that leverage. And I was a much more pull hitter left-handed. Right-handed, okay, so opposite. So the top hand, that's my steering hand. So right-handed, I felt like I could hit anything, but I had a huge hole inside right-handed. Like if more lefties threw hard, luckily, just thank you God that most lefties don't throw 100 miles an hour. If you could get it in on me right-handed, just the way that I hit, like you were going to blow me up. So I sat way more off speed right-handed. I almost like always sat off speed and then adjusted to a fastball. Left-handed, I was always ready for the fastball because I wanted to get that head out there a little bit more, and I wanted to see how far I could hit the ball left-handed. So two totally different swings, and then two different angles.
Yeah.
I really struggled if I only faced righties for 4 or 5 days. So I'd see, we'd go into Seattle, just going to throw that out there, and I'd see, all right, well, we got a 4-game series in Seattle, right. And I'm like, oh, no. I hope I get a right-handed at bat because I'm going to be hitting left-handed against all those righties. I hope I get a right-handed at bat this series. Sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
Then you go to Oakland and you got, you see Zito, Mulder, 2 lefties, and it's like, oh man. So I haven't hit right-handed in 4 or 5 days. Now I got to face the 2 best lefties in baseball back to back. That's when I started struggling. And then you're like, all right, how do I get this thing back? And so over 162 games, I went through 3 or 4 different hot streaks and slumps.
So I think that's just great context for who we're talking about. And I really do think that correlates with Adley. I think it was a guy that when you're at the lower levels and you can grind past it, absolutely. And when he got off to a good start in the big leagues, great. But then players adjust. And then what's happened over the last 2 years? When are you going to extend Adley Rutschman? So you don't think internally he's thinking, well, I got to play better too. And then wait a minute, there's a guy in Kansas City who's the 2nd overall pick that's turned into a pretty damn good player in Bobby Witt Jr. Well, wait a minute, they chose you over him. And Adley was the right move for the Orioles at the time. No doubt about it. But for Adley, there's so much more that goes into the thought process of not only being a catcher, but how do I figure out how to be the best hitter on that day? And some of those matchups that he's faced for the righties, like Bubic is one of the best lefties right now. That's a tough matchup for him. Daniel Lynch, I faced him in the minors. That's a really uncomfortable at bat. So the thing that I'm trying to get at here is Adley seems a little bit off with that right-hand swing. He seems like he's a little bit behind as far as his bat speed, and that could just be a mechanical thing, or he's got to change his mindset, which Mark talked about. So I thought that was really fascinating. For those that are wondering, yeah, you're going to have to find out what works for you. Mark decided I have one swing for my right-handed approach, one swing for my left. I don't need it to make sense for anybody else but myself for it to work. So if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We do this live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday right here on X and wherever you get your podcast. You can listen, Spotify, Apple. We put everything out then on Instagram. Shoot us a follow over there. We're seeing a little limbo action. Beautifully done there from our man, Brad. Guys, so as we get closer to wrapping everything up here, did we ever finish out the poll of what we had for a dome or no dome?
I don't think we talked about it.
Let me check.
Well, we have it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here, let me make sure we got the right one. Awesome. So we got, after 77 total votes, should all baseball stadiums have a dome? 75% said no. I'm glad we have cultures.
Yeah.
I'm glad we have cultured people.
That doesn't shock me.
Is it okay? But dome or retractable roof? Do you consider them the same?
Yes.
No, I do not.
Because they're not.
Yeah.
I would argue retractable roof. I could be open. Like I'd be fine with that. Because then if it's a nice day, it's open. It's open
Although
field.
I think the underlying conversation in that would probably be how much do you want the elements to matter? You know, if you're talking about October baseball and that gets cold, do you want that to be a factor or not? I think that would become the underlying conversation there. I think some people would want it to be a factor, and hey, you know, where you're playing, you want it to feel like where you're playing. Other people might not, might want to say, hey, we want to make sure the elements don't factor in. So
No, and I'll be honest, no player likes playing in the cold. I don't care what they say.
I would hate it.
Oh yeah, your hands would.
Yeah.
Anything 50 or below with some wind and you don't hit it on the right part of the bat is miserable.
Yeah.
It's absolutely miserable. But you know what's also miserable?
What's that?
Well, the start to the season for Orioles fans, which it's been okay. I would like to talk real quickly one of our last points of the show, which isn't necessarily baseball related, but it is sports related. And we're talking about miserable. There's a lot of people that were Wizards fans in the area that were miserable.
No idea where you're going with this.
Yeah, look at that. How about that segue where you had no idea? Good segue. Everyone thought the Wizards had a great chance to win the number 1 pick in the NBA last night. And they don't even get a top 3, 4, 5 pick. They end up being the 6th, and the Dallas Mavericks, who traded away a superstar, get the number 1 overall pick. We're not here to talk about basketball, but the conversation that I think is interesting is about tanking. And what do you do? Because recently the MLB just went away from worst team gets the number 1 overall pick. The NBA obviously has the NFL draft lottery. And I thought Greeny on Get Up this morning had a very interesting point. I want us to talk about that here. So Zach, can we pull up that clip or you're looking to find it real quick? Good?
Yeah.
Let's pop it up.
You said that. That is so well put. And I will say this. I just did the NFL draft, as I do every year. It's my favorite assignment of my year. The number of people who said to me coming out of Green Bay, well, we'll just suck this year and get Arch Manning. Well, we'll just be terrible this year and get Arch Manning. Shut up. Win games for crying out loud. There's only one Arch Manning, A. B, who knows how good he's going to be? C, the Mannings stay in college. They're legendary for that. Arch Manning isn't going to be in next year's draft. You have no idea how good next year is going to be. Win games. Teams should never benefit a team to lose any game that is being played at any point on the schedule in any sport.
Think about also the.
So I love that fact. And if you're a fan, I know that people hold hope if you get a high pick, right? Every time there's a high pick, you feel like he can be a savior, which I agree. But also, if you're a fan of a team and you are constantly, quote unquote, tanking and that season's just a wash, I think that was always a flawed system to be rewarded for being so bad. Now, if you go out there and your team just doesn't play well, hey, I get it. But most cases, you look around, and we know they're not going to say it out loud. There were teams that tanked throughout sports. They did. I mean, people would argue that the Orioles tanked.
What?
Just a few years ago.
No.
Right? So, and again, it's a slap in the face to the players that were there, but we're being honest, they weren't spending as much then, and they were going to live with the results of what the team was going to do. They were going to go out there to win each day, but that was the reality, right? So MLB changed that formula, and actually then the Washington Nationals got the number 1 overall pick. They were not the worst team in baseball last year. That would have been the Chicago White Sox would have been up there for that conversation. Colorado Rockies, one of those teams. So fellas, I mean, Zach, maybe I'll start with you. What do you think about the NFL or all of these professional sports going from a draft to a lottery selection?
If they do it, it cannot be what the NBA does. It can't be if you don't make the playoffs here in a lottery. I think if you're going to do it for the NFL, I would go top 5 picks, top 10 picks most. We can't do the NBA-esque where all of a sudden the top 16 picks and, in the NFL are now a lottery. I just think that makes it too. The highest I'd go would be 10 for a lottery for NFL. But besides that, I'm I'm fine with it in football, honestly, because there's only 17 games. Like, it just being the worst is the worst. It doesn't bother me there. I feel like in the NBA, in baseball, those teams, you just see some teams that are just so brutally bad, where after the end of 82 games, 162 games, they're 15, 20 games below the next person. And then that's embarrassing. In football, unfortunately, like, I just feel like it's one of those things where you can be trying to win and have a 2-win season. Like, I just think it is just that kind of sport where I think, yes, there are some teams that are like, oh, we need to go get this quarterback. We need to go get that. That's fine. That's why I'd probably do top 5 picks in a lottery.
Okay, so I'm in agreement with that, where I think there needs to be better parameters. But Kevin, I do like the idea of, hey, if a team's bad and we don't want to say, hey, the worst team is going to get the pick, but I do get it, Brian, of saying the Wizards, they didn't tank. They need more talent, which I agree with. Like, the Wizards do need more talent. It's not like the Sixers then a few years back, whatever it was, with the trust the process, where there wasn't a plan in place and they were able to accumulate picks. And it didn't lead to a championship, but you get my point. I do like the idea, though, of if parameters of maybe the top 5 worst teams or 6 are in a lottery to be selected. I mean, Kev, you got an opinion one way or another?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably go top 10, but that's about as far as I would go with the NFL. And I mean, for the NBA, I just think they have to recalibrate it, if we're being honest, because with the play-in team should not be able to be in the lottery.
I agree with that.
I think that in the NBA, they've had trouble recalibrating things over the last couple of seasons. You know, the new CBA comes in, and, you know, me being a Nuggets fan, I can relate to this because the team was built under the old CBA. The Nuggets have essentially 3.5 max contracts, and they can only fill the rest of their roster with minimums because of the fact that the new CBA limits them in terms of how much they can trade out or the contracts they can bring in and those thresholds, and other teams have had to deal with that. And then for the NBA, you know, they add in this new lottery system of, it's not going to be worst team gets the highest odds. It's now top 3 have a 25% chance or whatever the number is. And now play-in teams who are actively playing playoff games, you know, I know that it's not the actual playoffs, but still it is a way that you can get into the postseason. And some playoff teams who are the 7 and 8 seed are now falling out of the playoffs to get a potential number 1 generational talent. I think that they should recalibrate it to be, if you make the play-in, your pick is set. That is where you go. And then whatever that would be, top 8, 10, 12 teams, whoever that would be, those are the teams that are in the lottery.
Get rid of protected picks in the NBA. I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. If you trade your first round pick, you traded your first round pick. I don't care. Oh, we accidentally sucked that year and we fell into the top 5, so we actually get to keep.
I'll be honest. I don't understand all of that either. With I understand.
And then it goes from a top 3, and then it's like, oh, if you miss that year, that's a move to a top 5. I get that, but
how about if
here's
you trade your pick away, you don't get a pick?
That's what I'm saying. It should be like, if you trade your first round pick, you don't get to pick with that pick. I don't care that you suck. You thought you were going. You thought you were going to win, so you traded your first round pick. Something happened. You sucked. You got a top 3 pick. Don't make the trade next time. I mean, how many times in the NFL have we seen a team that you're like, oh, well, they just got their pick. You know, it's not. And then all of a sudden, it's like, oh. Therefore, what was it? The Browns had 2 top 5 picks?
The NBA does not have competitive balance picks like the MLB and NFL do with comp picks. So you don't get rewarded for losing guys in the NBA. You just have to eat it.
Well, but also the NBA,
it's different leagues.
It's a 15-man roster too in the NBA, where really only 8 to 10 are actually playing somewhat consistently in a rotation. Baseball, we know it. You're going to have a 25, 26-ish man roster, depending on what the rules are. If there's a doubleheader, which there is one tomorrow, so they'll have a
single
26.
admission, which is dope.
Single admission if you're going to go to the game. So things like that, I think definitely it's just an interesting conversation. I do like the fact with baseball, they're working on how some things can be and how you can trade picks or whatnot, right? We saw that with the Corbin Burns pick, but you can't trade these picks like your actual first round pick. You can't trade that in baseball. And also you can have teams that are ineligible for the top pick because of situations. So last year, the White Sox and the Athletics were ineligible. So I was mistaken on that. The White Sox couldn't have even gotten the top pick.
Yeah, and I will say that is one of the craziest rules that Major League Baseball put into place about this whole, anti-tanking lottery. You can be like genuinely bad and not trying to be bad. And then after 2 years in the first 10 picks, they're like, yeah, you don't get another one. What best you can pick is 11. So that there just might be a team that unfortunately
stinks.
Yeah,
stinks again.
if you have a bad team, I don't know. That's just
the Marlins last year and the Rockies had the highest odds to win the lottery at 22.5%. The Marlins finished with the 7th overall pick, and the Rockies are going to have the 4th overall pick. The Mariners were at 0.5% and jumped to 3. Now, obviously, though, everyone's just more up in arms because the Mavs just said, hey, we're going to give away an international superstar to the Lakers. Massive market. And then, oh, wow, 1.8% chance. Whammy. You get the number 1 overall pick. I think parameters need to be set in the NBA. I think a lot of people hate everything about what happened with that situation.
Why?
Well, go ahead.
Why did they get the first pick? Have you seen the thing with the
Yes,
what?
You do it almost.
No,
every
I'm
month.
talking. Okay, yeah, the winter. Okay, yes,
That's what
I'm
you
not.
just did.
I'm talking about the graph about the last time where it's Chris Paul traded to the Clippers,
Davis,
and they get the number 1 pick for Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis gets traded to the Lakers.
Yeah,
that year the Pelicans get the first overall pick to get Zion. Then Luka traded to the Lakers that year. They move all the way up and get Cooper Flag. I'm just saying.
So what you're
now there it is, Kevin. Now,
yeah, there you go. That's your thing.
That's your go-to.
It is. Why would they do that?
So I'm just curious, but I do think it's an interesting concept because at least in professional sports, the fans just want to see their team go out and compete. And if they go out and lose and they're competitive, so what? Right? I think it's the teams then when there's questions of what the situations are. And again, it's like, how can you actually accuse a team of tanking or not tanking? But you can tell when teams have had what their positions are moving forward. I just think that the NFL draft, I wonder if they ever move to that. But we'll find out. I digress. Is that
yeah, very different breaking news. Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson have officially been unbanned.
Wow.
From Major League Baseball.
Wow.
Okay. Oh. Okay.
All right, we got to talk. I mean, we're wrapping up now. We got to talk about this for a moment.
I got the no. Yeah.
Yeah, they knew. Hey, Sam, you're going to figure out here every time we're wrapping up, news breaks,
drops.
or we're actually done, and then a trade or something happens.
Corbin Burns getting traded to the Orioles 3 minutes after we got off live was the worst.
Crazy.
So this is confirmed that Pete Rose.
Yeah. Good. Well, first of all, I'll say good for Shoeless Joe Jackson because that man, he was accused of throwing the World Series game where he had the highest batting average in a World Series game ever, and they said he threw it. So I don't know how that happened, but.
So do we? The only report I'm seeing is from
I know
from Don.
I know, but I got an ESPN notification. Yeah, I got the ESPN notification, which was when I was like, "Is this real?" Like I was like, "Is this?"
And Rich Hill also signed with the Royals.
Yeah, Rich Hill did sign with the Royals. So 40.
About the same magnitude of news as we can say. All right, this is interesting to me. Obviously. Shoeless Joe and Pete Rose have become iconic names in the sport with situations that maybe they're remembered for. And it's the reasons why that they aren't involved with, the Hall of Fame with baseball. Specifically, if we're going Pete Rose, talking about being banned, gambling, Shoeless Joe Jackson, if you know the story back in the way days of quote unquote throwing the World Series, the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting to me maybe is more of the timing of this situation. Because Pete Rose just passed away recently, relatively. And Pete Rose was a flawed man for many reasons, but I do wonder why now.
We know why now.
Well, yeah, we do know why. I would hate for that to be the reason why. I think that it's good to recognize, but I always hate if someone's around to see the change. I'd rather them be around to see the change if you know you're going to end up doing that. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit frazzled by this news.
Yeah, I literally that's why I got the ESPN notification. I went to Twitter immediately because I was like, is this a fake ESPN notification? Like I'm so used to having to check like for verification on Twitter that even an ESPN notification, I was like, this can't be real. It's like just a random Tuesday, and it's just like that.
It is.
Just like that. Yeah, Jeff Passan just officially tweeted it out as well. So
with the link to the article.
Yeah. I think to wrap this part up, like I said, we weren't around with the shoeless Joe Jackson era, and we weren't really around for Pete Rose, but we were understanding the story of Pete.
Yeah.
A lot more because that is a recency bias. And I think for Pete specifically, you felt that he was cast into a shadow of baseball. And I think because of what baseball has gone through over the years. And now when you're looking at all professional sports have gambling involved, and this doesn't take away from what he did, right? Like the situation of gambling, and there was the rules and that was set forth. You got to live with the consequences. But that's a tough thing for the entire rest of his life after that ban. He sat with of not being included in that conversation. And if you were going to make this move and you knew things were getting to a point, you never know really when someone's going to die. Truly you don't. You can get an inclination, obviously, if people get sick.
Yeah. It is interesting. I mean, tomorrow is officially the Reds tomorrow are honoring Pete Rose. So it's Pete Rose night at the ballpark. So I don't know if they knew this was going to happen.
Now you can do your Windhorse thing.
Why would they do that?
I think at the end of the day, and this is something baseball is going to have to figure out. Now we'll wrap up the show, is that baseball has to figure out what do you want to erase from history and who and what is right, because we're looking over the last decades, steroid era, you're making a decision here to lift a ban. At what point, how are you going to navigate this moving forward? Like, that's what I'm looking at going on. Because the steroid era, you're still not figuring it out. Barry Bonds is one of the hottest topics. And Barry, people are going to hate this, Barry was not going to be the home run leader if he didn't take steroids. Barry still would have been a Hall of Famer if he didn't. He was one of the most talented players at the time. You look at his numbers pre-steroids, the post-steroids, they're pretty drastic. But the common theme was Barry was a very talented player. He's one of the names that you're going to have to do this. Roger Clemens is another name that's going to be in this, but for different reasons. Now you're throwing in this category of what's going to keep a person to possibly be in the Hall of Fame, what's going to be a part of baseball history, and how are you going to tell that story? I think MLB's had a hard time doing that for a long time, and maybe this Pete Rose news will maybe give us a glimpse of what that will look like. And Cube, I'm not saying that they're hardly erased, but people look at them very differently since then. Like a lot of people don't look at Barry Bonds as being the home run king. And if you look at the names being involved, that Mark McGwire moment, how much do people talk about Mark McGwire anymore? But they talk about other Hall of Famers in a different light. So that's just kind of my point. Like, people look at players differently depending on what their history was given at the time. So, yeah. Any other final thoughts?
I think you hit it. This is gonna open up a lot of conversation. Funny enough, a lot of people think that this would end the conversation about Pete Rose. I think this opened up a lot more conversations about other people.
Did you see the actual letter in this?
No, I have not.
Let me read the letter. It just popped up now. This is in a letter to from the attorney is a letter sent to Mr. Rose's attorney. Manford wrote, in my view, a determination must be made regarding how the phrase permanently ineligible should be interpreted in light of the purposes and policies behind Rule 21, which are to, 1, protect the game from individuals who pose a risk to the integrity of the sport by prohibiting the participation of such individuals, and 2, create a deterrent effect that reduces the likelihood of future violations by others. In my view, once an individual has passed away, the purposes of Rule 21 have been served. Obviously, a person no longer with us cannot represent a threat to the integrity of the game. Moreover, it is hard to conceive of a penalty that has more deterrent effect than one that lasts a lifetime with no reprieve. Therefore, I have concluded that permanent ineligibility ends upon the passing of the disciplined individual, and Mr. Rose will be removed from the permanently ineligible list. While it is my preference not to disturb decisions made by prior commissioners. Mr. Rose was not placed on the permanent ineligible list by commissioner action, but rather as the result of a 1989 settlement of potential litigation with the commissioner's office. My decision today is consistent with Commissioner Giamatti's expectations of that agreement back in 1989. So, lots to unpack there, obviously. Lots to unpack there, but it is going to cause more conversation as we move forward into this whole thing.
That's interesting. I'm going to be honest, I did not think when we were just in there that that's the news we were going to get. That was, I think that caught everyone off guard.
Yeah, it really did change the mood. Sam, welcome on in.
Yeah.
Welcome on your first day here.
First day. Yeah, now news has to break every day.
Yeah, every day. You better.
Hey, Sam, get ready.
Maybe I'm the lucky charm. Maybe it just keeps rolling out.
Yeah, there you go.
News after news after news. Well, that settles that, and we will settle who will be doing the fitness test right after the show, where Sam is going to shoot for our group here.
Oh, yeah.
So for Zach, myself, and Brad doesn't want to participate, but we might have to put Brad in there.
Brad's got to be in it. He won't know he's in it until he gets here.
Okay. We can do that. Any other thoughts, Kev? Concerns?
No, I think we're clear.
Well, and one more time for the one time, which we haven't done properly, there's 2 things here. And actually, Zach, you're not off the hook yet because we do have to talk about.
I know what I'm talking about. I got locked in.
Oh, you're locked in now?
Oh, yeah.
So we're back on track.
Yeah.
So why don't we take a quick trip up to our friends at Hollywood Casino in Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Zach, what's our lock?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Sometimes you just got to go with the obvious stuff. Aaron Judge, 2+ bases. I mean, if they're going to give you the opportunity to make some money off Aaron Judge, you might as well. I mean, the dude does not miss right now. Batting 500 on balls put in play. He actually has dominated Wu in his recent matchups as well. So I'm liking Aaron Judge tonight. Let's see what they.
And you heard it here first from me, Corey Seager, for at least 1 hit against the Rockies. He's hitting .609 in his career against Kyle Freeland.
All right.
That's pretty
14
good.
for 23.
So that's Kevin's pick to get him back on to the race to 56.
Yeah, I kind of took a break because I was just not hitting. But now I'm on the board with 2 now. I'm on the board with 2. Last night we got Aaron Judge.
These?
And Gleyber Torres
Woo!
came through for me too. So
there we go. Proud of you, Kevin.
And then I'm picking Shohei tonight too. So
Shohei and
how original.
Corey.
How original for Aaron Judge.
How original for the boys.
Did I not go 2 for 3 last week, Kevin? Or I not?
I went 2 for 2 last night.
I'm really proud of you guys.
Thanks.
Very proud of you guys. And our friends at Hollywood Casino Charlestown Races in West Virginia. We're going to be doing a show up there at the end of June with them. We might have some Orioles and Nationals guests. So come join us for that. It's going to be a great time. We'll expand on more of those details. And as always, if you want to become a Penn Play member and you download ESPN Bet, you get $50 for the download, another $50 for putting down a $10 bet. And if you got a problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or our friend Rocco DeSangro. And as always, guys, we appreciate you all for tuning into the Ryan Ripken Show. And right below on the way out, if you're looking to get fit with us as we get ready for this summer and the pool's opening in Canton specifically, it's voted one of the best rooftop pools in the region. You want 2 weeks free? It's on us. Use the code right there, americlubs.com/Ryan-Ripken/ and RIP25 is the code, all lowercase. Beautiful. Hit the music, Zach. Wow. As always, here at the Ryan Ripken Show, we appreciate each and every one of you. We'll be back cooking tomorrow with the Iron Rooster. And we have some great guests lined up with you for the rest of the week. Have a day, have a night, have a great stinking Tuesday. We'll talk soon. Kevin, Corey Seager is out.
Good job, Kevin.
Good job, Kevin.
Out of 8. Wait, start strong, Kevin.